Here's today's First Word Daily Devotion.
August the 23rd, we'll encounter the question of the ages at Job chapter 9 and verse 2. But before we get there, let's turn to the Proverbs and see the Proverbs again lived out through our consideration of the life of Job. Proverbs 22, 2 through 4. The rich and the poor meet together. The Lord is the maker of them all. The prudent sees danger and hides himself, but the simple go on and suffer for it. The reward for humility and fear of the Lord is riches and honor and life. Again, remember what Job is telling us? Wisdom is to be sought more than riches. Wisdom is better than riches, and that's, of course, what the Proverbs teach us. Now, we won't spend a lot of time in our New Testament reading, but I'll point out to you really quickly before we get to the question of the ages, Galatians chapter 2 at verse 6, those whom seem to be influential, what they are makes no difference to me. And here's the key phrase for us to learn from our New Testament: God shows no partiality. And that's what we saw in the Proverbs, the rich and the poor, the Lord's the maker of them all. And we'll see that again repeated at Psalm 49. And we'll also see it repeated a little bit in our Job reading today. But let's turn to Job 9. Let's look at the question of the ages. Verse 2. Truly I know that it is so. And here's the question of the ages. How can a man be in the right before God? That's the question. How can a man be in the right before God? Let's continue reading. If one wished to contend with him, one could not answer him once in 1,000 times. He is wise in heart and mighty in strength. Who has hardened himself against him and succeeded? He who removes mountains, and they know it not, when he overturns them in his anger, who shakes the earth out of its place, and its pillars tremble, who commands the sun, and it does not rise, who seals up the stars, who alone stretched out the heavens, trampled the waves of the sea, who made the Bear and Orion, Pleiades and chambers of the south, who does great things beyond searching out, marvelous things beyond number. Behold, he passes by me, and I see him not. He moves on, but I do not perceive him. Behold, he snatches away. Who can turn him back? Who will say to him, what are you doing? And let's look here at verse 15. Though I am in the right, I cannot answer him. I must appeal for mercy to my accuser. And that's somebody different than God. Remember, that word accuser there is the same word that we saw earlier for Satan. The accuser here means judge. I must appeal for the mercy to my accuser. If I summon him and he answer me, I would not believe that he was listening to my voice. So you see how dark and in a position that Job is in. He says, even if I summoned him and he answered me, I'm not certain that I would recognize his voice. I'm not certain that I would believe that he was listening. Although he says that, remember, in the midst of that, he's crying out to God, and he's declaring something. He's declaring that his hope is in God. And so here we have at verse 8 here of chapter 10, Job's appeal to God. Listen to what he says. Your hands fashioned and made me. Now you have destroyed me altogether. Remember that you have made me like clay, and will you return me to the dust? Did you not pour me out like milk, curdle me like cheese? You clothed me with skin and flesh, knit me together with bones and sinews. You have granted me life and steadfast love, and in your care has preserved my life, or my spirit. And then he says this in verse 13, yet these things you hid in your heart. And so here he has these issues, even though he realizes the steadfast love of the Lord. In Job's case, that steadfast love, even though he realizes it, doesn't give him comfort. And listen, the Bible speaks to us in real terms. Some of you, or maybe someone you know, are going through a great difficulty. You don't just need to know that the Lord has steadfast love. Listen, you need to know that the Lord is full of steadfast love. You need deliverance. You need salvation. And let me just encourage you to continue reading the book of Job. Cling to hope. Cling to cling to the anchor of your soul. Cling to this truth that God will deliver you. You have no other hope, and really you have no other reason to hope, because this God, as we've seen time and time again, and Job's going to realize it as well, this God doesn't just tell us that He's a God of steadfast love. He demonstrates that He is a God of steadfast love. And you say, well, how does He demonstrate it? Sometimes it's in mighty ways. Sometimes it's in the small ways. But either way, we have to pray that the Lord would help us to not have Job's attitude here, that even if he speaks, he wouldn't believe that he was listening to his voice. We don't need that attitude. We don't need that disposition. We need a different disposition, a disposition that falls back onto the steadfast love of the Lord. And remember how Job is playing out, sort of like the Psalms here. We're seeing this poetic language. Here he starts out saying that I'm not even sure if he's going to listen, but that's not where he ends. And friend, if you're in the middle of that adversity, keep going. Remember, you might be where you are, but where you are is not going to be where you're going to be. And so trust the Lord in His steadfast love to take you where He wants you to be. Psalm 49, we'll close with a reading from verse 5 through 9, and we will look forward to seeing you tomorrow. Psalm 49. Why should I fear in times of trouble, when the iniquity of those who cheat me surround me? Those who trust in their wealth and boast of the abundance of their riches. Truly no man can ransom another, or give to God the price of his life. For the ransom of their life is costly, and can never suffice, that he should live on forever, and never see the pit. So we're back to where we started. Truly I know that it is so. How can a man be in the right before God? It's not because of any sacrifices that we can offer to God. We can't be made right with God because of what we can do. Our greatest sacrifice is nothing compared to what God can do. Our greatest sacrifice can amount to our salvation. What will we do then? Truly no man can ransom another or give to God the price of his life. What will we do? Well, we must trust on not what we can do, but what He has done for us. And the demonstration of His steadfast love has a name. It's Jesus Christ, who gave His life as a ransom for us so that we could be reconciled to God. Jesus makes us know steadfast love. And I pray today, no matter the difficulty, no matter the trial, that you today would hear His voice whispering in your ear, I love you, I have you, I will never let you go.